Welcome to this week's episode of the 365 Message Center Show. This week we have, as always, quite a few messages, but just some sampling of those messages. First one is Microsoft Purview. Have you ever needed to remove something from your environment, but it was on hold? It's kind of like when you dial in. Never mind, I was going to tell an analogy about customer service, but I won't. We're going to talk about a new feature coming to Microsoft Purview that's going to allow you to remove some content when you need to. Another one we're going to cover is when you're working with Copilot and you're wanting to say, hey, this content is what I want to ask you questions about. We're going to be able to do that using SharePoint and OneDrive content. And then finally in this promo, this intro, I'll talk about the feature of allowing your users to use Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat, Biz Chat, without having a license. That's right, pay-as-you-go is here for Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat. We're going to talk all about it and ask some intriguing questions. All of that and more on this week's episode.
How much more, Daniel? You said all of that and more. About 4 or 5 messages more?
Quite a bit more. It depends on your definition of what quite a bit would be for you.
I think it's in the ... more menu, and then it just continues to grow. But hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on episode 363. We are 2 away from our special 365 Message Center Show episode.
That's right.
And glad to have you here. Glad to have you following us, subscribe to us. To follow us on all the channels at 365MCS, on all the channels that matter. How am I doing, Daniel? Have I remembered your usual bullet points?
No, that's good. Tell them about sending in a short video. We've had some people doing that. Tell them about that.
Yeah, well, do that. Look, we are looking for around about a 15-second video just to say why you enjoy the show, how useful it is to you. Maybe 15 seconds is going to be hard to stay inside because you've got so much good stuff to say. But thank you for those who have sent in the videos so far. We're going to put together a nice edit for that and share some of the community love for that. So was it email? Was it what's the address?
Contact at 365mcs.com.
Yeah, okay, there we go.
Yeah, indeed.
Send it in.
Please do send it in. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to send in a quick message at the very top of the show.
Do it. Stay quick, though.
Okay. Microsoft Purview pipe. Isn't that what the vertical bar, it's called the pipe?
Yes, pipe.
Okay. For some reason, we got a pipe. Microsoft Purview pipe. Data lifecycle management, new secure workflow to bypass legal holds and retention policies. This is MC 971035. And just as I was talking about the intro to the show, this is a new feature in Purview that will allow you to delete content that, bypassing a hold or any retention policies. And this really is something that I've heard people talk about before. If you have retention policies on, but then that there's content, it just needs to be deleted. Like, you need to get rid of it. It's like a cancer, in your environment, in your content. It needs to be removed. You're going to be able to now do that. So yay, much applause. And you're going to be able to permanently delete that, and disregarding holds and those retention settings. Now, not just everybody can do this. Obviously, you can set it up who's going to be able to do this, and as part of your data lifecycle management policies and the way you're going to set this up. And you do obviously need to be careful, right, of who you give this permission to, making sure that you're auditing how this is working, because frankly, this means that they can go and delete things and remove it, and your holds won't matter. So making sure that when this priority cleanup, as they're calling it, the people that use that, know what they're doing. You will be able to run through and see what it's going to do before you actually, click the button. But it is something that you want to just be a little careful about. Okay. This will be rolling out early February 2025 and be expected completed by mid-February 2025. So pretty soon. So looking forward to all those people that, I've had several people mention this to me during, the Purview trainings that I've done, given to organizations saying, oh, could we do this? Look forward to them pinging me and saying, hey, I heard you talking about this. And what you could do for I am sure in your organization, all those people that are your Purview administrators and users, you probably have a team that where you're doing all your chatting. You could probably need some ways of collaborating. Daryl, tell us how a new way of collaborating in chats and our channels and teams.
Yeah, well, this is big news for Microsoft Loop users, losers. That was quite a juxtaposition there. Whoopsie daisy, transposing. Should I edit that out? No, I'm going to leave it in because we are all frills here. Microsoft Teams add a Loop workspace tab to a standard channel. This is MC 973493. I'll repeat, it is big news because this is something that we have wanted for Loop since it was available, workspaces. Just to, I guess, refresh our memory that Loop's workspaces are invite only. You will invite people into that space. They will have access to it, be able to contribute to it. Think of it like a roster system for membership. There's various ways of getting people into that, but it just was lacking that connection to an existing Microsoft 365 group. And the natural addition to a Loop experience would be to connect it to a team. And that's what this is all about. We will be able to go into a team, and as long as it's a standard channel, because that means that everyone in the team has access to that channel, you'll be able to add a tab and it will allow you to connect a workspace to that channel, whether it be an existing workspace or a new workspace. And the good thing about that is that everything in that workspace then will be accessible to the team. So you can go in and use Loop as if you were, a team member. You don't have to manage the membership. Another good thing for people who are interested certainly in the life cycle management of a team, that it will follow along with that management as well as you close down the team, the Loop workspace will be closed as well, and so it sort of fits all along with that. Loop workspaces, of course, they are stored in a different space to the team, so that's still stored in SharePoint Embed, but using this way to connect the two together, it means that the same group of people in the team can go in and use the workspace and all of its goodness without having to have those membership struggles. Daniel, how do you feel this will fit in with organizations using Loop?
I think for those that are using Loop already, it's going to fit really well. I think if they are already using Loop, they've been waiting for this for however long they've been using Loop, because that group, the group concept where I have a group for a team or for a working group or whatever, and we have a collection of services and we use those services to get our job done. But we've not been able to use Loop in that same way, and now we will be. And I think it's huge for those that are using Loop. And frankly, I think this is one of those kind of speed bumps that a lot of organizations had for implementing fully Loop, right? For going all in on it, is that there wasn't a good story to tell of rolling this out from a enterprise way, right? And now there can be. And I think that's really important. And the other thing I'll say about this is, when we start talking about groups, we also can talk about sensitivity labels. And when we using this, it's fully supporting this. And when we put a label, it's going to put it on the SharePoint embedded container where, as you mentioned, the loop workspace is. So I think this is going to be big for adoption, both for people who are already using it or organizations that are waiting to use it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, a natural addition to the way that we work already within a team. Conversations, files, and a loop workspace to bring that knowledge together, or think, plan, and create in the team. So, a big deal. And this is going to be rolling out in targeted release late January, complete by late January. That's quite a quick release cycle, but I guess it's targeted release. General availability rolling out February and expected to be complete late February. Very good. Daniel, you've got a double whammy for us on this, on Copilot, but it is talking about an advancing space, I think, to our ways of targeting Copilot responses. Tell us about it.
Yeah, and it's, I like how you're like, oh, it's a double whammy. Yeah, you wanted me to work more. He's like, you need more messages. So yeah, there are two messages that are related. So let's start off with the one of them, which is Microsoft 365 Copilot. Select Microsoft SharePoint sites when writing prompts. This is MC 973505. And this is exactly kind of what it was saying, is that when I am chatting, when I am having a nice little conversation with Microsoft 365 Copilot, I'm able to select sites from my environment, my SharePoint sites, to say, okay, I'm asking you questions. And the screenshot for inside this message says, summarize the action items from the documents in. And then you can use this, what they're calling this context IQ, which is basically being able to let me see stuff that I can get to. Sites is now one of those things. And you can pick and pick a site that you have access to and use that as your grounding, right? I mean, I think a lot of people are now familiar with the term grounding. Grounding's always been around when we're talking about LLMs and what they're grounding on. It's just Microsoft didn't really talk a lot about that other than it's on your content. Well, Agents has brought it to our mind, right? Of this grounding concept, I think, has made it a household name in most organizations using Copilot. So this is saying, I want to ground whatever I'm saying on this content, on this site, on this SharePoint site, which is pretty cool, right? Things like, and I'm looking at this as maybe like a ad hoc agent, if you will, as in saying, use the HR site or use the benefits site to tell me what are my retirement plan options, right? So doing it that way, it's grounding it only on that benefits site to give me answers. So I think that's pretty cool. So this one is rolling out worldwide mid-February and completed by late February 2025. And then the second message that is sister or brother or whatever, Microsoft 365 Copilot, select Microsoft SharePoint and Microsoft OneDrive folders when writing prompts. This is MC 973504. So just like, I was talking about before, we're able to ground, right? Be able to select when we're having that conversation with M365 Copilot, be able to select content that are in folders in a SharePoint site or in OneDrive, our OneDrive, to say, based on this content, do this, right? And one thing, the first thing that came to mind about this was when I'm doing research, I might download a bunch of content, like I'm going to download this research paper or this article or what, and so you grab this information, you throw it in a folder, and you're like, okay, here's my research. I want to read through this. Well, now you could say, Copilot, point to this folder and start your research that way, right? Start getting, what kind of questions should I be asking about this? Things like that I think is a great starting point. So being able to ground your content in folders in SharePoint and OneDrive is coming. While we're treating these as kind of a quick mention, because it's really, this grounding concept is not new, and we're now being able to point to SharePoint sites or folders within SharePoint and OneDrive. It is a big deal I think, for people to be able to get their job done. I think this was functionality that was heavily needed in the biz chat world of, the business chat of M365 Copilot.
If I could add a quick comment about that too. I think, the difference between typing something to make it grounded and / selecting something, it's even more specific. So I think that's why this is valuable.
Absolutely. And I think for those that are using Copilot, you're probably learning, you have to be very, very specific. And that's part of this whole prompt engineering concept, is being very specific as you can be. Sometimes you don't want to be specific. You want to open-ended and find what you find. But when you need an answer, and be confident in that answer, you have to be very specific and give guardrails to Copilot. And this is kind of that, one of those guardrails is using this content, do this. So this has the same rollout time frame, mid-February to late February rolling out. And I will right now say, hey, remember, because we know some of you skip the intro stuff and we don't really appreciate it, but we get it. Daryl's like, whoa, don't offend everybody. Send in those videos, please. This is the last week, really. We really need those videos. 10, 15 seconds of you saying why you watch or listen to the show. Say your name and why. Send a link to those videos to contact@365mcs.com. We'd love to get those videos in this week. Seriously, just 10 or 15 seconds. Get your phone pointed at you and rock and roll. Okay? So now that I've made some people mad and given other people their job to do, let's be a little flexible here and talk some SharePoint stuff. Darren?
I'm just getting more and more amazed at the imagination you use with your segues. It's I've got a lot of work to do. I actually sometimes wonder, Daniel, if that's what you're doing. Rather than listening to me talking about a message, you're like, I'm going to spend like 2 or 3 minutes trying to come up with the best segue.
Did you? I'm sorry. Did you just say something? I wasn't paying attention.
I did.
Thinking about.
I've just given you the segue for your message. No, enough of that. The SharePoint pages, flexible sections. This is MC 973514. This is, I think, a next revolutionary step in design and the look and feel of SharePoint. Is flexible sections a way to put content on a page in the position that we want. We're not sort of bound to 3 columns or a sidebar left or sidebar right or a single column or a long length column for the full page. This type of section now will allow you to lay things out in a grid pattern and put things in that grid in any position. Now there are some caveats there, some guidance around depending on what you're doing. But I relate this to another product that I use personally for a website. I use Squarespace, and this episode is not sponsored by Squarespace, so don't worry. It's just you probably have heard that mostly within YouTube channels. But when working with content there, you lay out a grid. You can grab a text box or a picture or something, drag it, drop it, and position it on that grid. And so this is the type of thing we'll have in SharePoint, where that section has the grid. And let's talk a little about those other types of content now and guidance. Where was that? There. So the card-based web parts, those are things like quick links, like hero web parts, things that generally have a size and kind of a minimum size or a maximum size to make sure that the content looks good. So they're still going to have a little bit of limitations around that. You can drag and drop them anywhere in that grid, but they still have to be at least full width, a third of the canvas, half the canvas, or 2/3 of the canvas. And that's really just to make sure that those cards still look good and are readable. And there's already some adaptability there in terms of the size. Non-card based web parts like text, images, file and media, where you might want to change, maybe that text is going to go thin and a little down the side or maybe down the middle or whatever. Those don't have those sorts of limitations. Just drag and drop them, resize them based on the grid guidelines that are there as well. So that's good. You'll also be able to overlap things. So think about combining two of those web parts, an image, and then bringing the text over and putting it anywhere on the image that you like. You're not bound to the guidelines of a call-out web part, for example, where the text is only there in a certain position. So you're getting the picture. It's about being able to drag and drop this content, thank you, and fit this into a grid pattern. Sadly, I'll have to say this, outside of the message content, but there is no pictures here for a graphical big release of something that is quite important. I know that we've had like a Ignite session on it, and there's been a bit of videos that have been released, but it's got to be something here in the message, Daniel.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it would be so nice to see some of those examples of the way this would work. But I mean, you've really hit it the nail on the head there, Daryl. I think everyone needs to go ahead and give Daryl a round of applause. Thank you.
Oh, not me.
Yes,
no, the SharePoint team. It's a big deal.
No, I'm saying you did a great job summarizing, because I think this is huge for those capabilities of, people have been using, their various image editors and having to, create an image and then move text around on it and stuff, and then taking that and putting it in SharePoint.
Yeah.
Because or having, I've seen this where they've taken two images and they've laid one on top of each other, in a photo editor or whatever, and then put it in SharePoint. Now you're going to be able to do that without doing, all of that business. I think it's just going to save a lot of time. And one of the last things you mentioned was the whole not being stuck with whatever, call out has a little text box there, and you're like, well, I don't want it there. I want it over here. Well, now you're going to be able to do that yourself because you're going to overlay. I think overlay for me is probably the biggest thing on here, for just me personally, but I know a lot of people want that. I want to kind of get, it's not pixel perfect, but, be able to snap to that smaller grid and be like, organizing things the way they want to. So I think
exactly. Cool. Yeah, look, we've had to be quite imaginative with the capabilities and limitations of SharePoint layouts, and it has been a big deal having the block editor that we've had for a few years now. But this is quite a step. So expect to see some much more variation in what you'll see on a page and how and where you put things. I think this will be really fun to use. So targeted release for this, begin rolling out late January and complete by mid-March. So that's quite an extended time frame for targeted release. General availability will begin rolling out mid-March and complete by late April. And that's for production, GCC, GCC High, DoD. Interesting though, like when I think of targeted release and general availability, targeted release is usually kind of user level based features, unless you've turned the whole thing on for the organization. So yeah, it'll arrive when it arrives, people, but looking forward to it. Let's talk about something quite significant here too, Daniel. This is a big topic I think that the community have been trying to understand as so many things have been released and said, hey, here's Copilot, it's coming, and we're going to make it available for everybody, or are we? Or how are we? What are we? Tell me more about this.
Yes, and it says updated too. Updated. Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat. Set up pay-as-you-go billing in Microsoft 365 Admin Center, MC973501. This is not a shocker. If you're a watcher or listener to the show for any amount of time, you've heard us talk about it. Daryl has mentioned it several times here recently of like, this seems interesting. It wasn't insider information at all. It was just seeing some writing on the wall of, I bet they're going to be doing paying as you go for Copilot in general. Well, indeed, they are. So they're introducing pay-as-you-go billing for Copilot Chat. So you will be able to set up in the admin center as an admin, of course, who has access to do this, be able to set up pay-as-you-go billing. And you also need to have rights to an Azure subscription. Okay. And this follows the same model for setting up syntax, right? Setting up, autofill columns, document translation, that kind of stuff. If you're using those premium features, you go through and set up the pay-as-you-go. Well, it's the same feature, although it is the same the way you do it, although there is a separate way to set it up, which is good. So you can track costs. Now, that's great and everything. But what this message doesn't say is how do you then give the permission to someone to use this pay-as-you-go billing? Meaning, how do you say, okay, I've set up this pay-as-you-go billing, so yes, as it's used, it can be billed. But then how do I give Daryl the permission? He doesn't have a M365 Copilot license, the one we have to pay $30 a month for or whatever, right? He doesn't have one of those, but I want him to be able to use Copilot Chat for biz chat. How do I designate Daryl to be able to do that and not everybody else? I want to designate this group over here because they're willing to pay for it for the pay-as-you-go billing. It doesn't seem to be any information in here about how that's going to work. Now, I have heard some questions around this on how in the world is this going to work, especially around how do you roll this out to certain people and not everybody? How do you make sure that you understand how that billing is going to work? How much is it going to cost? It's pay as you go, great, but what is the cost? We don't know that. And in fact, this was published January 7th, and it was last updated January 9th. And the update says at the top, we are in the process of making updates to this message to provide additional information and clarification. I think that's probably because there's been a lot of people going, okay, great, but what does this mean? And some of those things, Daryl, I think understanding how you can control this, so you can control cost and who's using it is going to be pretty important, don't you think?
Yeah, certainly. As it stands, the pay-as-you-go, you set it up or you don't. And if you haven't set it up, of course, well, people will not be able to access Microsoft 365 Copilot and access, I think we specified this earlier too, that it is accessing work sources for your prompts. There's web, there's work. You'll be able to, on demand or a pay-as-you-go, access those work sources. / tell me about content in this OneDrive folder like we just talked about earlier. But yeah, we do want to be able to control who can, and for various reasons, not just because we don't know what the cost is and we don't want our costs blowing out, but for change management purposes, we want to be able to communicate to groups of people to say, here's acceptable usage, here's how we want you to be able to use this, here's the capabilities. We don't want to just turn it on willy-nilly for the whole organization and say, we can either tell you about it or you're going to discover it and we're going to get a whole surge of people trying this stuff out and who knows what that bill will look like. So change management style, that's really important to ease things out, but also for piloting, because we want to try it with a smaller group of people, see how it lands with people, learn from them as to what kind of support and guidance that we'll need to give. Service desks, they're going to be getting more questions about this as well, and they'll have to support it. So where is the group control level? Where's the security group that says, here's my group of people that will have access to it, or here are multiple groups that we want to access. We're going to turn those on. That's what we want. Where is it? Where is it? Daniel?
Yeah, and we don't know that. And I think that's probably the biggest gap here because, I don't know how much this is going to cost, but what if it's every prompt costs $1? Every time you go into chat and you ask a question using these documents, or you just say, what is the policy on this? And it costs $1. Well, okay, but if you don't know that and you don't know how this, like, that could get really out of control really quickly financially. And I'm not saying it is going to cost $1. I don't think that's true, but who knows, right? We don't have all the details, so I think that's going to be really, really, really important. The rollout here, late January 2025, expected by mid-February. I would say until we have those answers, don't turn this on unless you're a really small organization and you can manage it from an expectation standpoint. But I would say until we have some of those answers, it's going to be kind of risky turning this on if you can't control who has it and how much it's, and you don't know how much it's going to cost. So, but once you start rolling it out, when people are in meetings, Daryl, they might want to put in, what if they want to rename themselves and say Copilot user as their name in Teams meetings, for instance, just to kind of brag about it.
Oh, man. I was wondering how you're going to link that. I like that creativity, actually. You could say that. Okay, well, let's talk about what it is to start with before we start making jokes. Otherwise, it's just a little chuckle between Daniel and I, because we know. So this is, I should actually open up the message. There it is. Microsoft Teams, edit your display name in meetings, MC974361. You join a meeting. Your name is your name. Makes sense. Daniel joins a Teams meeting and he works in the same organization as me, so Daniel is Daniel Glenn. But maybe Daniel wants to change his name. Maybe he wants to be a little less formal in this meeting. He's just going to, remove his surname and just have Daniel. Or Big D, because it's just, a bit of fun. Who knows? But that is actually the question. Why? But why?
Why, Daryl? Why?
Why?
I don't know why. I know this is supposed to be a quick mention, but Daryl, I just don't know. I just don't understand why you would want to do this. Even the screenshots doesn't make sense. I have one use case for it, and it's not that good of a use case. So I really don't know.
No, I mean, so it's left up to your imagination. But the point is that for organizational users, you'll be able to change your name in the meeting to whatever that is. We see and perceive there may be some, out beyond bounds fun that could be put in here. They could call themselves whatever they want. Yes, but it is a question of why. Like when people join our meetings anonymously, they can put whatever name in the display. They can't change it, but it's there.
Yeah. Well, one real use case that I thought of, and that's kind of alluded to in this screenshot, what if you want to hide your last name? Maybe you do have anonymous people that are coming in, and you're like, oh, we don't want them to know our last names. I don't understand why you would do that, but maybe you would. I don't know. I don't have a really good use case for this. So is this a feature that maybe is laying the groundwork for something else, coming? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't get it.
Yeah. It's almost like with a platform like what we're using here for recording, where you can change your display name, or you're on a live stream and you want to change your name to display something differently, adding your social handles or something. But anyway, this was a quick message. We could go on and on for the different possibilities. This capability will be coming to targeted release early February, complete by mid-February, general availability worldwide and GCC. Begin rolling out mid-March 2025. Why am I adding 2025 now? Why are we still adding 2025 to these messages? They're probably written in 2024.
Because the year was added to these messages because we made fun of them a long time ago. And the product group said, "Oh, well, we need to add dates." So our show is the reason why those years are there. So
Really?
we call it out. Yep.
I hope we're not also the cause as to why when they include the full marketing product name of everything
No.
in a
That's
title.
not us. If
Okay,
it's
that's
good, then it's us. If it's bad,
okay.
then it's not us.
But is this good? Anyway, I will continue. General Availability GCC DoD will begin rolling out April, you guessed it, 2025. Expected to be complete mid-April, hopefully the same year. Yes, it seems to be the case, mid-April 2025.
Daryl, you are a funny jokester. Everybody, I think it would be great for you to give Daryl some love in the comments and the socials. Hit us up at 365MCS. Maybe you have why would you change your name in a meeting? Tell us in the comments and on the socials. Hit us up. We'd love to understand why in the world you would do that. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this week. Send in those videos. We're compiling them, and this is it, man. We need it. So send it in now, please.
So, yep, 2 episodes away, and we will see you in 364 next week. Bye for now.
Bye.